What is up, amazing people? You are listening to Release Your Inner Power podcast, where we share stories about experiences and the paths we have walked that make us who we are. There is encouragement, tools, and tips from special guests to help take those steps to release that inner power. I'm your host, Shauna B. Here we go. Are you tired of feeling overwhelmed and stuck in the chaos of life? It's time to reclaim your peace and your power. Guess what? I have something for you. A free checklist that will transform your days from chaos to calm, helping you boost your day and set yourself up for success. Just imagine waking up each morning with more clarity and purpose, ready to tackle whatever comes your way. This checklist is designed specifically for women like you who are ready to prioritize their well-being and their productivity during the day. Simple yet powerful strategies, this checklist will guide you through creating a morning routine that sets a positive tone for your entire day. Say goodbye to stress and hello to more calmness. From mindfulness practices to time management tips, each item on this list is carefully made to help you get a sense of calm amidst all of the chaos in daily life. You'll be amazed on how small changes can make such a big difference. Don't let another day slip by feeling overwhelmed and frazzled. Get your free checklist and start this journey from chaos to calm. It's time to take control of your life, my friend, and thrive. Check out the show notes for the link to get your checklist today. And remember, you deserve to feel empowered, motivated, and some more in each day of your life. Our next guest is Desiree. She's a mama, a co-author. She's a former business coach and has worked in the event industry. She really likes to rally for women to be heard. She likes to inspire women to be more brave when it comes to using their voice. She also is a host for a podcast called Slightly Unfiltered, where she invites women to share their stories of when they choose to be unfiltered. It's a super fun podcast, and you should check it out. Let's see what Desiree is going to share about her life with us today. Welcome back to Release Your Inner Power podcast. We have a special guest today who's going to give us her story, her podcast, and a fun story that I just love to look at the stuff that she has. She's going to share with us today. Welcome, Desiree. Welcome to Release Your Inner Power podcast.
Hi, thank you so much for having me on.
I know, I'm excited for this conversation. So tell me your story. What brought you to where you are today? Who is Desiree?
Oh gosh, that's a loaded question.
Yeah.
It's so funny. That's one of those questions that, that I'm like, well, I'm not anybody special. And then I start telling my story and people are like, oh my God, really? Yeah. And suddenly it's like, oh, I do have something interesting to say. I mean, I guess my story is, I was raised by a single mom who had the heart of a hippie and the soul of a gypsy. And yet she was still a badass who got stuff done. And despite saying that I was not married, despite saying that, she was a single mom, she was married 5 times. But we lived a life of her being a single mom and taking care of us kids. And I just got to, grow up and see what being a strong, confident woman really means. So I just, absorbed all of that growing up. And here I am, living my truth of loving to empower women. And I feel like the universe brings me women like you, where I'm like, oh, we got stories. We got jobs to do. We're put on this earth to do great things and share our stories. So, I've career-wise, I've been in events for 20 plus years, but I also ran my own business and always have a side hustle. And there's always something going on. I'm a mom and just, trying to make all things juggle in the air and not raise crappy humans.
I love that you say that because it's so true. Like I say that too. It's like, I just want them to be like contributing members of society. Like it's, with all the things going on, it can be hard sometimes. You're like, really? Sabotage. Here we go. Okay. How do we get through this?
I just don't want to raise a-holes. I want my kids to be decent people with jobs or, some sort of income and who are nice to other people.
Yeah, right.
That's really all that I'm asking for.
I know. That's so cool. I know. It's like, please, no a-holes. Be nice. Could you just be nice, please?
Yeah, just be nice humans.
I love it. I love it. I know that we were talking earlier before, and you had a really cool story about, your momhood and what that looks like. And would you be willing to share that story?
Yeah, it's been a bumpy ride. It's very I say non-traditional, but that feels so old school. And there's so many women that I've met that don't have this traditional life that we were conditioned to believe we're supposed to have. But the father of my kids, we had a rocky relationship for over 20 years, and somewhere along the line decided to throw in a couple kids in the mix. And after I got pregnant with my first one, we decided to split up and decided we were going to try and co-parent. And we did that for a couple years. Then we decided we were going to try and make it work as a family. And we got together, and he's got some demons that he thought he had, kind of pushed aside enough that he could move forward. And the demons popped back up. And I made the decision that, I packed up my daughter and I one day and said, you got to figure your crap out. Come back when you're ready. And so, my daughter and we bought a house. I started a business. We were trucking along, doing just fine. And he came back, and, he's always been a good dad and stayed in my daughter's life. And she went over there 3 days a week, and we did a decent job of co-parenting. One day he said, hey, you want to go on a date? And I was like, oh God, sure. Why not? And 9 months later, our son came along. So, it's definitely been a roller coaster. And then after 10 years, I decided that, he still had some things that he needed to work out. And I had some stuff that I needed to figure out too. I had kind of lost myself in the being the quote unquote wife and the mom, and, trying to still have a career and maintain a house. And along the way, somewhere I kind of forgot who I was, and had wrapped my identity around waking up and taking care of 3 other people. And he's got some stuff that he still needs to deal with. So, I just decided it was time for us to part ways and figure out who I am again, and give my kids some space. And I got one that's a teenager now, and one that'll be a teenager in a couple years. And we just needed to kind of figure out, who we are as people. And, that's where life has taken us.
Yeah, I know. It's so crazy. It's funny how, like you said, the universe brings people together that, are like similar, because when you're talking, like, my story is very similar to yours. And when we were talking before, I was like, no way. Like, there was a lot of similarities, like, with our story and just how things were going. And it's interesting that you say, like, you kind of lost yourself along the way. It's so crazy how, as women and moms, how we can get in the role of like wife and mom and the to-do list and the things that we get stuck on this hamster wheel. And then just out of habit, we like fall into this habit, right, of just doing the things and not, and like totally like putting ourselves to the side because we have to take care of, all of these other things. And it's so much easier for us, for whatever reason that is, to put ourselves aside for that.
Yeah.
And then, being able to quote unquote wake up from that, or be lifted from the fog and being like, wait, hold on. I don't even know like who I am anymore. I've totally lost myself in the situation. It's kind of a cool and lucky thing, because sometimes you can just get stuck there, and it's not even a purposeful thing. It's just naturally what we do. And if we get this little, I don't know, light, if you will, and you're just like, oh my gosh, like I am more than just this. Like, I was an individual before the kids, before, the husband and all the things that I was a human with my own stuff. Where's that? And then you're like, okay, let's do some discovery. So good for you for being able to see that, but then not only see it, but step into it and like be cool with, this is what I need to do. And I need to make changes, and making decisions and following through with them. I'm sure it wasn't easy, but the fact that you're doing it, knowing it's going to be hard and knowing it's going to be different, and you're just like, whatever, let's do it. We're doing this because we need to figure it all out.
Well, and there's this fine line between, rediscovering who you are and taking on this role of mom and all of these things, where there's this fine line where it's like, is this selfish? Like this is, I had children. I'm supposed to.
Mm-hmm.
I'm supposed to, live the role of being mom. I have a significant other. It's my role to, fill in the blank, whatever you feel like you're supposed to do as a significant other. So I think there's like this, well, what about me? Well, don't do that because that's selfish way of thinking. So, I mean, it really is a struggle of trying to make sure that I'm spending time on myself and that I'm still growing as a person and I'm still feeling like, I'm being seen and heard, and while raising other people at the same time and making sure that they're getting the love and the nurture and the attention that they need too. So it's definitely a juggling act of trying to figure it out.
Oh yeah. So I was the same way, and I had to overcome that, because if I went on a trip or even went out with my girls one night or just like wanted to be by myself, I was like, I can't, I have to do all this, being a single mom, I'm like, I have to do all this stuff.
Yeah.
I can't do that. And I had to really work through it and with it, because I don't think that ever truly silences, right? I don't think that ever truly goes away just because we have too much, love and caring for all of our people around us. So it's always going to kind of be there. But you're right. It was definitely bigger. And I think it's like a societal norm too. Like, well, you chose to have these kids, so now you got to take care of them. Well, yes. And I also am an individual, right? And it took me a while to think of the and. It was like, because I made a choice, like this was the choice. And, like, yes, I had the kids, all the things, and I would only pick. It was like an either or, but then when I stepped back and looked at it, I was like, why can't I do both of them? Like my kids, it's like an ebb and flow, if you will. Like you take care of your kids, but you also have to take care of yourself so you can show up the best. Because if you are running on an empty tank, your kids are going to be like, mom was always tired. Like this, she's always snippy. She's always this, she's always that. That is not the memory that I want my kids to have. I want them to, remember that we had good times, and the laughing and the less snippiness and the not being tired. Like I can go play soccer with my kid. I want to be able to do all of that so they have those happy memories versus just the like, things today.
Yeah. It really is. It really is kind of, this vicious cycle. I love how you mentioned that you have to figure out how you can show up, and the grumpiness, because I battled that for years. And here I'm thinking like, oh my gosh, I must be depressed. There must be something wrong with me. It must be hormonal. I even went to the doctor. I said, am I, perimenopausal? Am I, and the doctor's like, I hate to break it to you, but you've got years to go before you hit menopause. And I'm like, then what is wrong with me? She's like, and the doctor even said to me, she goes, what do you do for fun? And I couldn't answer that.
Right.
I didn't have an answer. I'm like, I don't know. I take the kids to hockey. And she's like, no, that's fun for the kids. What do you do for fun? And I was like, I don't laundry. And it was like a huge, oh crap. Like, no wonder why I'm angry and tired and snippy and biting everybody's head off and pissed off that somebody didn't do the dishes. Because like, that's what I had wrapped my whole personality and my whole being around taking care of this house and taking care of everybody else, that I was like, I was becoming to the point that I was resentful and angry about it. And once I had kind of like that, oh, I need to take care of me too, like the whole energy shifted. It's when I had the aha moment of, I don't have to put up with this toxic relationship roller coaster that him and I have been on. And it was like, it really was like this huge, weight lifted off me, and this bright light came to, and it really was, it wasn't an exact moment, but it was definitely a wave of relief that I am in here and I can show up if I remember to give myself space.
That's so important. It's so important, and it's so powerful. And it's crazy too, because like, you've done it, I've done it. and like us sharing, like, yes, you can do it, but you don't know truly how it feels until you make the decision and you take that first step, like you said, and then it like opens up your world and you're like,
Yeah.
whoa.
Yeah.
And then you want more. You want more of
Yeah.
that because it is okay. It is
Yeah.
okay. You can
Yeah.
have both. You can do both. And it's so, so important that you don't lose yourself in all of, and it's so easy to, but it's so important to not lose yourself in all of that because, like you said, you don't even realize it. And then someone asks you a question and you're like, can you ask me
Yeah.
that again later? I need to go back
Right?
and
You're
think
like,
about that for a
I don't
second.
even know how to answer questions about myself anymore. Ask me questions about my kids. Ask me anything and I'll be able to answer them. And you know what's so funny? It's I would listen to conversations, with women like us who are kind of on the other side of being stuck. And I used to think, that's so great. Good for them.
Yeah.
I don't know that I'll ever get there, but good for them. Or I'm almost in denial of like, well, this is just my life. Like, this is the life I chose. This is just things will get better one day. And it's almost like you walk around with blinders on, giving yourself all of these toxic positivity mantras where you think you're talking yourself into feeling better, but really what you're doing is you're talking yourself out of figuring it out.
Absolutely.
And I think it's just it's a once you've gotten out of that, what I call stuck in the suck.
Yeah.
Once you get out of that, it really is just like, it's like, then you just want to tell all of these other women who are stuck there and can't figure out how to get there. Like, you just want to cheer them on and clap and be like, you can do it. Like, look, there's women like you and I who are sharing our stories because we did it. And we want to make sure that that women have the encouragement and the empowerment and the support to know that they can take a few minutes for themselves and put themselves first and love themselves, as cheesy as it sounds. And it's
Yes.
just, yeah.
Yes.
Now I'm
all
all
of
like,
it. I know. I love all of it. I love it. That's absolutely. It's funny because, like you said, you want to keep doing the encouragement. You want to keep doing that and being like, yes, come on, like lock arms with them and be like, let's do this,
Yes.
let's go, and like, knowing that there's other people out there that can also support you along the way, that you don't have to do it alone, and that that it's okay. It's okay for you to be your own person and a mom and a wife and all the things. A difference in perspective that I had to do also was take a step back and like they're in sports and we're running them around doing their, they have their special activity that they do, right? And so how I looked at it was how I started the process, because I was like, I was really struggling with this whole it's selfish thing. And I'm like, if they have a sport, I need to have a sport, whatever that is. If it's walking, if it's working out, if it's, running, if it's lifting weights, if it's whatever it is, or even maybe playing a sport, who knows? But like, I was like, what's my special activity I can sign myself up for, because they have one as well. So it's like an equal thing. Or I need to go buy them new clothes. Okay. I need to buy a new shirt, whatever, or a new pair of pants, or I'm going to put something for me in there. And at first I was like, this just doesn't seem right. Like it was so weird. But then when I started practicing it and doing it, I was like, I became more okay with it because it was okay.
Right.
Like there's no judgment police that are going to come in and be like, how dare you buy the shirt when you should be buying your kids, whatever. Like nobody does that but you. That's you, like you're judging yourself. And so that was my steps towards like taking a step and doing it, and then just getting in the practice of it. So now it's like all encompassing as a family, like with me and my kids. If they go, if they go on a play date, mom gets a play date too. Like it's just the same thing, So I've kind of worked it around that in order for it to, and now it's just a habit. And it's cute because sometimes they'll ask me the same thing. They'll be like, oh, when's your play date? And I'm like, oh, well, it's, it's next week on Tuesday or whatever.
Right.
It's great.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah. I love that. It's so important. We have to find something that we enjoy that isn't revolved around the kids. And I do like to preface this. It's hard when they're young, when they're little, and everything they do relies on you. But there is ways around it. The play dates, call grandma, say, Mom, I just need an hour, there's, and I know not everybody is lucky enough to have that support, but honestly, like, just find a way to make yourself a priority once in a while, and it really does make a difference. I mean, it just I did hot yoga for a while. It was just kind of this random thing. I was never very athletic. I never really got into working out very much, and I won like a free session, and I went to yoga, and that was my thing. 3 times a week, it's like, sorry guys, the phone goes on do not disturb. I'm in a yoga session, you can't reach me. And now I don't do the yoga thing anymore, but I found joy, and I work out in the morning. I carve out 30 minutes. That's all that I need. And it's not necessarily, the benefit is it is good for me, but it's really more mentally, like, it's just me for 30 minutes focusing on what I want to focus on to feel good.
Yeah.
And it's just how, and I used to hear people that were like, oh, I work out and that's my alone time. And I'm like, yeah, right. I'm like, that's so not me. And I'm telling you, I don't know who I've become the last 6 months. I work out every day. I, eat better. I take care of myself. I'm like, I wish this woman was here 10 years ago, but
Right.
I'm here now. And that's what I'm going to celebrate.
Yeah, exactly. I love that you said that. And yeah, you're right. Like, you stick a toe in and you do one thing, and then you're doing another one, and then you're doing another one. You turn around and you're like, wait, what? Look at what I just did. And then you get all excited about it. Like you said, celebrate it that it's happening now, and that it's happening, that this is here.
Yeah.
And how good you feel, it's like, we can sit here all day and be like, it feels amazing, but you won't know until you try it.
Right. Right. Yeah. And I mean, I put it off for years. I put off the separation for years. I put off the working out for years. I put off, all these, I put it off for years because I talked myself out of it. I have, what I call, like, Pollyanna is what I call her. She's the voice in my head. And that's because Pollyanna is always trying to find the silver lining. She's always looking for the positive side of things, which sounds like a really great trait to have unless you're in a shitty situation. Because she's constantly telling you, oh, it's okay, but look at all the good things, and it's kind of like, yes, it's great to feel, it's great to find the positive. It really is. Like, that's a good thing to have, but don't get stuck there so much that you don't see that you can make a change, that you can move forward, or you can make good things happen. You can feel good. You can release the guilt. You can, you can make good things happen if you make sure that you're not covering up the bad things with the fake positivity.
Yeah. Like, what do they say? Polishing a turd or something, like,
exactly
there, that's bad. And don't put glitter on it, because it's still a turd. It's just
exactly. Exactly.
It's so true. I've worked with people in the past where it's like that, where it's the, like you say, Pollyanna, and it's like always looking at the things, and, oh, it'll work out, and, oh, it'll do the thing. And I'm always saying, okay, but if the same situation keeps coming up and you still have the same response, and then you talk yourself out of that, that's probably something we need to pay attention to. And it'll come easy at first. It'll be like, what I like to say is kind of like slapping you with a piece of paper, right? It'll just be like, just like a little bit, like, hello, it's here. Here's your lesson. Here's the thing that you might need to shift or change to feel better. And then if you ignore it, whether it's Pollyanna doing it or whether you're like, and you just shove it aside and you don't listen, well, then next time it might be a piece of cardboard. You know what I mean? And then next time it just keeps moving up levels. And if it keeps coming back, it's like, wait, there's something here for me that obviously I need to change or shift or something for this to be better and for that to go away. So it's kind of like, you can't always it's both ways, the positive shove aside, or the not even dealing with it, shove aside. You gotta take it in. You gotta be like, let's see what's going on here. Yeah. That's great. So with all of this, so you mentioned working out. Is there other things that you do that you make sure to get your time in, to like fill yourself up, if you will, to be there for your teenagers?
Yeah, it's
University.
crazy, but I love my biweekly therapy sessions. I mean, I've learned to embrace. I always I would hear people talk about, oh, I had a great therapy session, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's great. I have friends, and they're like, friends are there to help you feel better. A therapist is going to give you the tools so you can actually change things. And I was like, okay. And then I ended up finding a therapist that I absolutely love. And it's true. It's like that 1 hour session every other week it's my safe place. So I know that I'm not gonna, especially when you're close to your teenager, sometimes you might overshare, which I'm very close to my 16-year-old. We share lots of thoughts, some that I, should probably keep to myself, but it's a place that I know that I can talk about things, and I'm talking to the right person, not my teenager who's going to take it in and absorb it and turn it into her own thoughts and that kind of stuff. So yeah, I mean, it sounds really silly, but I love therapy.
I don't think it sounds silly at all. I'm totally with you on that. I also do biweekly therapy. I've been doing it. It's for me, it's kind of like working out. It's just different. And you continually use it. Like, I don't wait until, like, I've been doing this since like 2009. Okay. So like it's just continuous, and every other week it's like, what are we going to talk about? And there's always something that comes out, or always something that you can check in with. So I love that you said that. I think it's great. I think that's so awesome. So what, I know that we've talked about you having a podcast and your store. I would love to hear more about both of those things.
Yeah. So both my store and my podcast are called Slightly Unfiltered. And it all came, I kind of had like, I've had this thought of a podcast for years, like even before it was cool, like even before the pandemic, I was toying around with it. And I had a couple different names, and I was actually on a group coaching call with my old business coach. And I was like, I'm really struggling with like, what is my brand? Like, what is my personal thing? And I'm like, I love to swear, because everybody knows that I'll drop the F-bomb in the middle of a freaking work meet call, and I'll be like, yeah, well, whatever. So that cracks me up. And I was like, but I'm not like truck driver. Like, I'm not crass. Like, I'm going to drop the F-bomb in kind of a classy way. And I was like, it's like I'm unfiltered, but just slightly. And I was like, oh, like it was that moment of like, oh my God, I'm slightly unfiltered. And everybody like on the call, like got silent. And I was like, I think I just had an epiphany. And it just fell into place. And then the mugs in the store all came about. I was actually doing one of my interviews, and my guest had said to me, she's like, you say some of the funniest, most random things. She's like, I would totally wear that on a t-shirt. And I was like, that's how I can monetize the podcast, is I can make a store. So that's it, all just kind of fell into place. And that's how I came up with Slightly Unfiltered, both the podcast and the store.
Oh, I love it. I love it. So what kind of guests do you have guests on your podcast? Yes.
Yes.
What guests do you have? Like, what is the theme around your podcast?
Yeah, so it's very similar to yours. I invite women who have amazing stories to share of how they're showing up unfiltered one way or another in their life. I had a Catholic school teacher who decided to out herself. She was living a double life for many years and not telling anybody that she was in a gay relationship, and working in the Catholic school district wasn't something that she was, so she decided to do it. She outed herself and then wrote a book. So it was, just an incredible story about how she showed up for herself. Another one who, a mom who lives in rural Pennsylvania was getting disgusted with all the old white guys running the school board. So never having ran for anything in her life, she ran for the school board and she got voted in, and she's been making big changes about things that are going on, just inspiring stories of women who figured out that they needed to show up for themselves, and they did it. They took the courage and figured out how to be brave, and they're everyday women like you and I. They're not solving cures for cancer, they're not walking on the moon, but they're walking around amongst us and have great stories to share about how they're showing up and making a difference for their own lives.
I love that. I love that. That's so great. I love those stories too. That's so great. Well, I will have all of the information for the store and the podcast and how you can reach out to Desiree if you want to say any of this has touched you or moved you in any way, or if it spoke to you, in the show notes so you can find her. I always like to ask at the end of the podcast, what is your superpower?
Oh gosh, this is such a fun question. My first thought is connection. I love connecting people. When I'm having a conversation with somebody and they're like, oh yeah, I want to do this, I immediately go, oh, well then I need to connect you to Sally, or, Mike has a plumbing company. I always love connecting people. I would say that's probably one of my superpowers. My biggest superpower is probably being a cheerleader. I love cheering on women. I love when women make big decisions in their lives, whether it's a divorce or marriage, to start a business, change careers, whatever it is. I'm like, yeah, let's figure out how to do this.
So awesome. I love that one. That's so awesome. Thank you for sharing those. That was great. Is there anything else that you want to say to the listeners?
No, just wake up and remind yourself that you are a badass.
I love it. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being on the show and sharing. This was such a good conversation, and I'm so glad that you were on the show.
Thank you. It's been a blast.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. I hope you enjoyed the conversation, learned something new, or got some gems to take away that will boost your week. I release a new episode each week, so make sure to click that follow button to not miss what is coming next. If you love the show or want to share a story, send me a quick message. I love hearing from listeners. If you know someone who needs this episode in their life, go ahead and share it with them. I'm sure they would love you for it. If you are looking to connect more, check out the show notes for all the social links, my website. I would love to hear how this episode helped you and what you loved about it. If there's a topic you want to hear about, send that too. All right, ladies, now is the time to release your inner power.